Good morning. Well, a couple updates. Spoke about it last week a little bit, but last week we watched Mighty Ducks 1. Last night we watched Mighty Ducks 2, D2. They still got it. They do. They won the Junior Goodwill Games. Coach Gordon Bombay found a way and found himself. It was amazing. Yep, we were pretty pumped up. Second update I'll give you, Easter, still good. The tomb's still empty. Like, still valid. It still plays. I remember this fight my wife and I got into, like one of our worst fights ever. That's saying something. We had this fight because we just moved into town. We have Menards, save big money there, whatever. I was supposed to get like a freezer. We needed a freezer for a garage, something like that. I don't remember what I was supposed to get. But we had to go because there was an 11% rebate. And we just had to get there, and then Saturday, it expired. I hadn't gone and got the thing, and I mean, we were not on speaking terms for a few days until we realized that rebate resets every single week. It's 11% all the time, always. Save big money at Menards. They mean it. And that's how Easter is. It's like we have this big thing, we Creaster, we show up for that one time, we check the box, we worship Jesus, and then it's like, he's still risen. He's still doing a thing, he's still working, he's still alive and well, and he wants to do work on us and with us. Another update from this week, I didn't really mention last week, this was new to this week, is that 2 of my kids grew up this week. I expect them at any point to sprout little beards. I'll smell booze on their breath. I'm in ministry, so I hold no delusions about my children's role in teenage society. I already know what type of kids I'm going to have. I'm just getting ready for it. You guys know. You know. The preacher's kid. Always the bad one. Anyway, these boys are 5 and 7, but they grew up. And this is how they grew up this week. They found the cul-de-sac. And they each have said it's like the best week of their life. And what that is the cul-de-sac in our neighborhood, there's this random cul-de-sac, and it's where all the action happens. All the tomfoolery, all the kids congregate there, gather there. One day, my kid came home and he's like scraped and bloody, but the smile on his face was huge. He's like, the cul-de-sac. He's just all into it. One of our kids came home with mulch in his eye. And we actually knew what happened on that one because we had taken a walk and we had seen them. We're walking and we think they're playing in the cul-de-sac. They are in the cul-de-sac, but they are on top of a mulch pile with shovels. There's like 7 kids. And I found the homeowner. I was like, which kid is yours? She's like, none of them. They just came over and started throwing mulch around. I got them some shovels and they're mulching my lawn. And my kids couldn't pick out a shovel in a lineup. It's like end times. My kid's shoveling. It was crazy. And he's like, I got mulch in my eye. I was like, all right, cul-de-sac. Another one of my boys came home and he said that a young woman of the age of 6 had declared her undying love for him. So there's that. This is a true quote. One of them said to me this week, Dad, at the cul-de-sac we play games, but you can't come because you're old. I was like, I didn't want to play your stupid games anyway. So they're going this way on maturity. I'm going this way. We're definitely going in opposite directions. So my other kids and my wife, we take walks. At the same time that my boys strike out for the cul-de-sac, we take walks. And since they found the cul-de-sac, we try and walk by the cul-de-sac about 39 times because we're those parents. We just want to see all the like rapscallion shenanigans that go on. And so we're walking and it happened, I don't know, middle of the week this week, they got a game of knockout going. That's the basketball game, if you're familiar. Now, to the kids in the cul-de-sac, they are familiar. This was like the 17,000th time they've played knockout. But to my bubble children, this was game number 1. So they were ruining everything. They weren't playing the rules right. They weren't doing anything right. And that's a terrible feeling, isn't it? You know what that's like when you got to go to a new school? Remember that? It's been a long time, but do you remember when your parents moved and you had to go? Or just start a new school and it's the first day? Or the first day at a new job and you don't really know the culture yet? Or how's this? You come to church for the first time. Or back to church after a long time and it's kind of like a little bit shaky. You don't quite know what to do. Here's what we do here. Masood talked about some of the ways we get in the community through the week. But then what we do on Sundays is you show up around 10 a.m. If you have a class or something, you can come earlier. But if you want to come into this room, you come about 10 a.m., you get coffee or get water. And then I think it's a really good thing if we establish this as a cultural value here that we say hi, some kind of hi to each other. You don't have to get everyone, I guess, but some. We should just practice right now. Okay, give me some kind of greeting from your seat on 3. 1, 2, 3. Amen. Pretty good. Like 19 of you are like, I ain't doing it. Like, you'll get there. All right, there's grace. Sometimes it takes time. It's fine. I love this when you come to church, and this is a hello I love. When people mean it, if you can get to be a church where you mean it, I think that's a beautiful thing. It's good to see you. But like really mean it. Everyone on earth wants to be seen and known. So to declare that, I see you, and it's good. It's just good to see. You didn't earn it. I mean, look at you. You're a mess. You came in out of the rain. You didn't earn this good to see. It's good to see you. You were accepted. It's a beautiful word if we can be that. But then these weekend gatherings, we just come and we pile into this place or we log on online to seek God intentionally for an hour. And that can mean different things to different of us because we're on different parts of the journey. But we seek God intentionally for an hour. We connect with each other. And we begin forming deeper relationships with God and with others. Now, I just want to show you a thing real quick here. This will be interesting, maybe just for me, maybe not for you. But I already tested you with crowd participation, and all but 19 of you were in, so here we go. I just want you to raise your hand and leave it up. It'll be a little bit awkward for a second, but get over it. We're family, right? We're supposed to be. Raise your hand if you have ever prayed for me or my family. Okay, leave them up. Raise your hand if you have ever talked to me. Raise your hand if you feel like you know me. Okay? So hands went up. You can put your hands down. You can put them down. But a bunch of hands, probably like, a couple hundred hands went up over the course of those questions, which is something. All right? A bunch of hands go up. Now I want to ask another set of questions. Just one question. Here it is. How many of you have abused me in some way? Physically, spiritually, emotionally? Just one. Good. All right. Thank you for your honesty, sir. Glad you're here. Security, we got someone like, what? Okay. Keep an eye on him. I love how confidently his hand went up, too. Look at those. Like if 200 people, hands went up on good things, like praying for my family and kind of knowing me, knowing my name, something like that, and only one degenerate put their hand up on a bad thing, look how good that is in my life, that hundreds of goodnesses happen in my life by coming here. And that's how I achieved it. How did I achieve this? I showed up for an hour intentionally seeking God with other people and connecting with others. And what happens is both of those connections grew. My connection to God and connections with others, except for that guy. Who knows? We could grow. He and I, we could do some work and we could get there. But that's what we want to do. You see how that happens? You're like, man, I don't know. If you come here for 5 years, you're going to know more people in year 5 than you knew before because we say hi to each other, we show up, and we're seeking sort of the similar things. That's who we want to be. But even with that, to feel comfortable, you sort of have to learn the lingo. You got to know the jargon. You got to know the vernacular. When we walked by the cul-de-sac and they were playing knockout, I heard a kid say to one of my kids, you're going to take the rock, you're going to shoot a mid-range J, they're going to board it and finish, then dish it to who's next, and the person behind you hits before you kick rocks. I could see my kid's eyes go cross from 30 yards away. You know, he doesn't know what any of that means, and if you don't, it's like, yeah, we've had that feeling. Another one of my kids, he was playing one-on-one at a basketball court near our house. And I was like, the supervisor. I'm supposed to be watching this. And he's playing with a little friend. And the friend, who's got a good dad, says, check it up, and bounces it to my kid. They're playing one-on-one. And what check it up means, it's check. It's like if you're playing one, you have no ref, that is like everyone's ready. So you bounce the ball to the defender like make sure all the teammates, this case is one-on-one, make sure he's ready, and then he gives it back, and then you play. He said, check it up, and bounces to my kid. My kid turns and does a right-handed layup and misses. And then the kid takes the ball, he's like, no, man, check it up. Gives it to him, he turns and does a right-handed layup and misses, meaning we got to learn the lingo, we got to work on our layups. All right? He doesn't know the language. We got to know the language. And so where we are right now is we're in this series, and we've been in this series for a while. We've been in this series for about 12 weeks on the book of Acts. And we're going to continue in this series until it's done. And so summer's going to be a lot of book of Acts. And then you're like, man, this is my first week here. I don't know what he's talking about. Or I miss every other week. I don't know where we are. We could talk about this whole series. And some of you are like, I've been in church 10 years and I have no idea. So what a miss it would be to go through this summer and continue on in Acts and just kind of leave some people behind confused. So the book of Acts, where it's nestled even in the Bible. So you have like the Bible's divided into 2 parts. You got the Old Testament and New Testament, or the First Testament and Second Testament, some people call it. All right? And so the First Testament is all about just kind of how God works with people. And for a Christian, what we would say is it's all pointing sort of towards Jesus. And then the New Testament comes along after 400 years of silence, and it's the story of Jesus for the first 4 books. And then it's the rest of it kind of pointing back on what Jesus has done, and out of that, how we operate in the present and where we're going in the future. And the book of Acts is right after that Jesus part, telling us kind of what goes on now. And so today, as we kickstart kind of the summer next week with like baptism, which will be awesome, please come, it'll be amazing. And then we have Mother's Day where we'll be in the book of Acts, and then we really get rolling into it. I just want to make sure we're sort of on the same page. So a bit of a recap. Here we go. Here's the recap. It begins this way. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And out of darkness, he said, let there be light. And any of you have been around church for a while, you're like, whoa, that's the very beginning. That's the book of Genesis. What does it have to do with Acts? It has to do with it. Everything I do in this recap has to do with Acts. It all ties into Acts. What kind of recap is this going to be? It's going to be a thorough one. But at the beginning of the book and all throughout and pervading the book of Acts is that there's this God who is all-powerful, who created everything. And some of y'all who wandered in here, and this is like week 2 for you because you came on Easter, and now you came back like, God didn't create everything. Science says he didn't. No, it doesn't. Science makes no such claim because it can't. Science doesn't really weigh in on the subject. At least it can't prove it, and it can't disprove it. And it can't prove anything else either. That's right. What science says right now, the leading theory that science has right now, is the Big Bang Theory. And the Big Bang Theory, inelegantly, is that a tiny point, a particle or a piece of matter or light, something, a piece of energy, this tiny particle, all of a sudden just expanded into everything. And so I was at my desk this week and I asked ChatGPT, smartest friend I have. I said, ChatGPT, why did it suddenly expand? I understand what you're saying. I understand the theory. I kind of understand how it works, but why? What was the impetus for it beginning? Why did it start? Why did it expand? Why did it make everything? Here's what ChatGPT wisely said. Scoured the whole internet, did generative thinking, came up with the best possible answer, and it was this: we don't fully know yet. And so then I asked Matt GPT, what do you think? And here's what I think. I think believing in a non-personal dot that suddenly expanded into life, light, and all the rest takes just as much, if not more, faith than believing some external agent suddenly arranged life, light, and all the rest. Either way, it's a faith position. Now, one of those faith positions is commiserate with the way the world actually works. How we perceive love and community, how we strive for justice or morality. And the other one is not. What the other one does is it reduces love and romance and virtue into just constructs. Tolstoy was rebelling against the thinking of his day, thinking that has not changed. And he has this quote: "You are an accidentally united little lump of something." And then at some point that lump ceases to be and more lumps happen and that's about it. And he's like mocking it, and it hasn't really changed. What that does is just say everything's an accident and all things are just chemically aligned and it just kind of pops up and it's spontaneous and who knows what's gonna happen. What it does is it stomps story flat so that you don't any longer know who you're supposed to be. You don't in the future know where you are going. And as to where we've been, it's a perpetual we don't fully know yet. This recap could go long. Okay, so God, out of love's overflow, makes everything. And then at some point, he makes people. And people are very good. They're a special creation of his. He makes them out of his own image, which means we can reason, we can think, we can get microphones and say stuff, and then with our ears we can hear that stuff and compute it into meaning. Pretty astounding, honestly, what is even happening right now. But he makes these people, and at some point, people get pretty unruly. It's like the cul-de-sac on Halloween. Things run wild. So this God intervenes in these huge ways a couple of times. But the third of these interventions is pretty wild. Here's the third of these interventions. He goes to a human being and he says this: "I will be your God and you will be my people." And that guy he says it to is like, people, it's just me and the old lady. That's what he says. That's like the first time ever a man has called his wife the old lady. The last time was in 2019 when I introduced my wife that way at a dinner function. Now we don't say it anymore. But he says, it's just me and the old lady. And what he meant is, really, I am old and she's old. And you're talking about our people. It's just two of us. There's no more coming. And then he doubles down and this God says, your descendants will outnumber the stars. You will be blessed and you and your people will be a blessing to the earth. And they laugh. They're like, man, you don't get it. We are old. We are geriatrics. We are already working on our pickleball swing. We're learning bridge. We have a deposit down at the retirement facility. We are old. And all of a sudden, as this guy is saying that, the woman says, my water just broke. He's like, you got water? What's going on? They have a kid. All of a sudden, descendant happens. It's funny what they name that kid. You know what they name him? What it means? He laughs. And I love the old proverb that man plans, God laughs. He laughs. And so they have this kid, and then that kid has some kids, and then one of those kids has a whole bunch of kids. Now, one day, those whole bunch of kids are out playing in the cul-de-sac of their lives. And the older kids decide to play a game that's called Let's Kill Our Brother. They do. That's the game. Boys will be boys. They decide to kill their brother. And then one of the kids steps up and said, let's not kill our brother. We shouldn't do that. Instead, let's sell him into slavery. And you're like, oh, sweet. There's the good egg. Like, that was the good one's idea. The good one's idea is let's just sell him into slavery. And so they sell this boy into slavery. And in slavery, this boy rises the ranks and becomes like the number one official in the government. And he saves the entire land, a land called Egypt. We've heard of that. And he saves the land of Egypt from famine. And then his own people, he forgives those brothers, and they multiply, and they have this whole nation now. We have all these descendants, but those descendants are enslaved in Egypt. So that God who intervenes sometimes, he intervenes. He keeps an eye on this cul-de-sac, And there he comes and he intercedes again and he frees the people and he leads them out of captivity to a promised land. And in that promised land, this new beautiful cul-de-sac, they start lighting fireworks, even though he says not to. They steal the roll carts. They start recycling styrofoam. They start breaking every ordinance that he's put into place. And so they're punished by God, and then they make up with God, and then they break their end of the deal again, and then they're punished by God, and then they make up with God, and then they break their end again and again. I could do that 3,700 times, and you would have a picture of what happens. That is the pattern. That these people who are chosen to be a blessing to the broken neighborhood that they've been placed continually reject authority and do whatever they want. And so we get a couple promises going on at the same time. 2 simultaneous promises sprinkled throughout. The first one is this, is that God will send someone to the cul-de-sac who is going to make everything right. There won't be such harsh rules because there'll be a new rule, which is called love, that will fulfill and simplify all the rest. And this new kid will be their God, and they will be his people, and it's gonna be great. Second promise, simultaneous to that, is it isn't gonna be great because they will reject this new guy, just as rejected all the other ways God has tried to bring flourishing. They've rejected God's rules, they've rejected his prophets, they've rejected his sacred writings, rejected. And because of this constant rejecting, we're gonna get a bunch of new kids and invite them to the cul-de-sac instead, because they'll be able to fulfill God's goal of blessing the whole neighborhood and bringing about a new neighborhood of peace and love entirely. And what we just covered is the Old Testament. That is 39 books, more or less, in a sloppy 10-minute sort of recap. And back to promise 1. There's going to be someone sent, and it's going to be good. That's Jesus that they're talking about. And that he's powerful, and that he's kind, and he's wise, and he strolls into that cul-de-sac, and they beat him up and give him a swirly. If we break from the analogy for a minute, they kill him. He's a Jew, and his own people, the Jews, take him and kill him. Now, other people did too. They conspired with the Romans. There's a mutual effort of everyone on earth wanting to kill Jesus, basically. But his own people kill him. And then Easter happens. He rises and institutes his final redemption measure to bring about his kingdom. He's going to do one more thing. And this one more thing is going to be the thing that's going to last until the finale, until the big fireworks show, okay? This is going to be it. This is going to be the one last measure. Done parting seas, done bringing floods, done scattering people, the Tower of Babel, done sending prophets, done writing books of the Bible. This is going to be the last thing we're going to do. And you're like, what is it? Is it a light show? Is it a secret weapon? Is it a new Marvel character? What is it going to be? It's what we're doing right now. It's the church. He inaugurates the church age, and that's the book of Acts. That the Jews who stayed faithful and followed Jesus are given a mission to take a message of Jesus' love, sacrifice, power, and kingdom by the means of the Holy Spirit, God's Spirit that comes into anyone who follows Jesus, take it to all the world. And so if you think of Acts, we come to this book, the book of Acts. I like to think of it as like a TV show, like a documentary that we're shooting, because that's how we take entertainment a lot. We're trying to shoot this documentary. Let's say you're in charge of shooting a documentary. Let's say I'm in charge. It'll be easier for me to talk about. I get a camera, and boom, teleported back to the land of Jerusalem, and it's the beginning of Acts. And I got this camera, and I don't know what to do with it, and I have a producer in my ear talking to me. I say, where do I point the camera? And the producer says, at him. I say, at who? He says, the one who was dead a month ago. Because that's how Acts begins. It begins with Jesus, who was dead a month ago. He dies, and then for 40 days, he goes around making speeches, eating fish with his friends, just proving that he's alive, saying things. And in Acts 1:8, the camera points to Jesus, and Jesus says, you are going to be my witnesses to his a few hundred people who are gathered who follow him. You're going to be my witnesses. You're going to be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in Judea and Samaria, and then to the ends of the earth. And he says this, you're like, good, I got it all on camera. And then he levitates out of the picture into heaven. And you're just pointing to the clouds like, this is a lousy documentary. We only got a couple minutes, and he's gone. What do we do now? Where do I point the camera? Redford's left the building. What do I do? And then the producer says in your ear, point it at that guy. And you say, who? You say, the one who was next to him, the fisherman. But you find the one who was next to him, the fisherman. It's a guy named Peter, who was, in his earthly ministry, one of Jesus' best friends. And that's what Acts does at the beginning. It just sort of follows Peter around. And Peter takes a microphone like I have. They didn't have that then. He just did this. And he gives a sermon. And a bunch of people follow. And then he gets arrested. And the camera just follows him as he gets arrested. And then he gets released and a bunch of stuff happens. Then he gets arrested again. The camera just keeps following Peter around as he does the Jerusalem phase of Acts. Remember, there's 3 phases. Jerusalem, the surrounding areas, and then the ends of the earth. We're in the Jerusalem phase. And then they fill Jerusalem with their teaching. And persecution breaks out. It's like those kids who rejected God and then rejected his prophets and then rejected Jesus. Well, they grew up and stayed mean and stubborn, and now they want to reject his followers. They want to reject his chosen members, his movement. So the church that starts lasts about 5 minutes, and then it scatters all over the place, which means two things. The first is that it's finally time for the new kids to get invited. We're going to reach out into all the people groups of the world. That's not any longer going to be God having a chosen people of an ethnic background. It's going to be God taking all the people and having a new family formed. So the new kids are going to get invited. The second thing is going to tell us where to point the camera. The Old Testament alludes to all this. Jesus alludes to all this, that Christianity is sort of like this new form of Judaism, the completed one, this offshoot. And then a bunch of people were invited to come to that party, and they passed. Invited to come to the cul-de-sac, and they said no, and these were the children of Israel. The people that God went to way back in the beginning. And as a people group, they said no, no, no. And so then the invite is going to go to everyone else, anyone who will hear it. And that includes Gentiles. And when we look at the book of Acts, we're going to hear that word a lot. What that is, it's people who aren't Jews. So are Jews still invited? Absolutely. Always and forever. But they're not going to come as this holistic people. They're going to come in individual basis like Peter did. But then Gentiles are invited. That's everyone who's 23andMe doesn't line up back to Abraham. But they're invited too. That's a lot of us. So it turns out that guy who God says, I'm going to make you outnumber the stars, that old guy with the old wife and now the kid, his family wouldn't actually be based on bloodline. It's not ethnicity, it's not heredity, it's based on blood spilled by Jesus. So now anyone who has faith in God through Christ becomes the family of God, the kids of the new cul-de-sac, and then we can invite whoever we want. We just have to go tell them. The second thing I said is, where do we point the camera? And the producer in the ear says, how about at him? And I'm like, at who? That guy who doesn't seem like he belongs. And that's where we pick up in Acts 9. I'm just going to read part of it to you today, and we'll talk a little bit about it, and then we'll move along. Acts 9 reads this way. Meanwhile, Saul was still breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. He went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogue in Damascus. So if he found anyone there who belonged to the way, whether men or women, he might take them as prisoners to Jerusalem. If that makes no sense to you, here's a guy who doesn't like Christianity. The way is Christianity. He doesn't like this. It's going to shut down what he's doing. He wants to be a religious leader, and this is threatening his religion by a new offshoot of their religion, a mangling of their religion. So he's like, I'm going to shut this down. He goes to the leaders. They say, here's your papers. Arrest anyone you want. Do whatever you want. You be our person. You be our enforcer. Take care of this thing and squash it like a bug. And he's like, deal. That's what I want to do. So he's going to go out away from Jerusalem in the outer areas because they know the game plan, that they're going to go to Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. So he's going to try and cut it off before it starts spreading to the ends of the earth. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell on the ground and heard a voice say to him, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? And he says, who are you, Lord? Saul asked. This is an important distinction. I think we made it a little bit last week, is that a ball of light comes and starts talking to you, bow to the ball of light. It's better, bigger, and more powerful than you are. This ball of light comes to him and he says, who are you, Lord? Now here's the thing why Jesus doesn't enter many of our lives, because we want to put him in the back seat. And that's not what he signs up for. That here at the beginning of Paul's journey, it has to be established that, I'm driving. You're not driving anymore. We know what you driving looks like. It's time for me to drive. And that's hard for some of us. That's why we have to wrestle with this. That's why it takes some of us a long time to get on the road. He doesn't want to be a passenger. He wants to be a Lord. He comes to be your Savior. Yes, we'll sing about it. He's a friend. Okay, yep, that's all true. But he comes to be Lord. That at the end, the ultimate separation is going to be, are you going to say, thy will be done or my will be done? That's what Jesus comes to do. He says, hey, I know where this leads if you're leading your life. And the best possible scenario isn't anything compared to what I'm going to do for you. Let me lead. That's what he does. And so Saul says, Lord, and he's granting him lordship. And he says, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. Now get up and go into the city, and you'll be told what you must do. What is that? Lordship. You come to church all the time, you're like, you're a sinner, you're a sinner, you're a sinner, you're a sinner. You know why you get told you're a sinner, you're a sinner, you're a sinner? Because sainthood is offered you. You're not supposed to get kicked on the ground and just keep getting kicked. It's like, man, this is shameful. I come here just to get beat up every week. No, you get beat up so that you can get up, lick your wounds, and then go out stronger. Get up, he says. That when you give lordship to Jesus, he doesn't stagnate your life and your existence. He gets you up off the mat and makes you walk. He doesn't heal you so you can lay around and brag about your healing. He heals you so you can get up and do cartwheels and jumping jacks. He wants to move into Paul's life. So get up, go to the city. You'll be told what you must do. The men traveling with Saul stood there speechless. They heard the sound but didn't see anyone. Saul got up from the ground, good move. But when he opened his eyes, he could see nothing. So they led him by the hand into Damascus. For 3 days he was blind and did not eat or drink anything. Now, I think this is great too. Saul, whose name changes to Paul, he's smart. He's networked. He just convinced the religious leaders to do whatever he wants. He's tied into the emperor. He's tied into Rome. He's got all sides on him. Like he's in a good spot everywhere. He has the keys to the castle. He has the keys to wealth. He can do he is a self-sufficient man. And you know what a self-sufficient man is? It's a sham. We do not even know what will happen to us tomorrow. That's the truth. We're all just missed. If you're like, no, I know, I got everything. I got a 401k. I got things planned. What do you do about death? And the answer is none of us know really what to do about death. It's a scary thing that we're going to undertake alone. It's like if I'm walking around, it's like I see an airplane. It's like, I think I might fly that. And then the pilot comes up and be like, yeah, I kind of know how to fly that. Like, I'll take my chances. I'm going to wing it. Like, that's unwise. I should let the pilot do it. So when Jesus comes, when he comes and dies and then conquers death, no one knows what happens after death. No one knows how to conquer death. No one knows a thing about death, really. As ChatGPT would say, we don't fully know. Here's a guy who says, I do. I want to follow that guy. He's the only one with experience. And so what's happening here with Paul early on is like, hey, are you self-sufficient? Are you servant sufficient? Are you gonna come under the lordship of Jesus, or are you gonna keep trying to be the Lord yourself? And that's the question for all of us. He makes him dependent. He can't even walk down the road without help. This guy who could do everything. Just like that. He's teaching him something. Some of us are going through some very hard stuff right now, and it might just be that we are being taught something. We are being humbled. Because what happens when we're humbled, when we're made low? We are lifted up on high in him. The other thing I love about this, it's 3 days that he's blind. The light comes to him so he can enter darkness in 3 days. What does that sound like? Oh, that thing that happened a month ago, Jesus, who gets hung on a tree, darkness comes, 3 days he's in the tomb, everything is broken, death wins, and then graves become gardens. He walks out in the life and light. He's getting to live this little micro-redemptive narrative that Jesus had just completed. He's allowing Paul to have this early in his trajectory. And it sounds like a hard thing, but it's really a beautiful thing. In Damascus, there was a disciple named Ananias. The Lord called him in vision, said, Ananias, here's another part, and I'll speed up here in a second, is that like if you watch a rom-com, you usually get one character, like it's the girl's perspective, and she's got a file folder, and you know who her friends are, you know what like drives her and everything, and she ends up at work or on the city streets with a file folder, and then she bumps into a guy, and the files spoil, and they get on the ground, they're picking them all up, and their eyes meet, and they fall in love. That's how it begins, and you never really know the guy's story. And here's the thing about our faith. We always think about how God's working with us, and that's true, he is, and we should think about that. He's also working on the person next to you. He does both ends of the equation. He works on both, and that's what we get to see here, that he's working on Paul, he's working on him, he's getting him towards the city, but he goes before Paul in the city, while Paul's seeing the great light, he's working on the guy who's going to receive him. Isn't that awesome? He's got all things, both ends of the string, he has the power to control. And he says to Ananias, Ananias says to him, he says, Ananias, yes, Lord, he answered. And the Lord told him, go to the house of Judas on Straight Street and ask for a man from Tarsus named Saul, for he's praying. In a vision, he has seen a man named Ananias come and place his hands on him to restore his sight. Lord, Ananias answered, I've heard many reports about this man and all the harm he's done to your people in Jerusalem. And he's come here with authority from the chief priest to arrest all who call on your name. You ever tell God what's up? He wants to move you. He's like, man, I have allergies. I can't move there. God, did you forget I had allergies? I can't take that job. My degree's in this. God, did you know that that's a really hard place for me to go? I kind of get anxiety if I have to go into that environment. Where were you when I laid the foundation is what God says back. Ananias thinks he's informed me, like, hey, this guy's coming to hurt us. Lord, you got the wrong name. Can you check the Rolodex again? I think you got the wrong name. He's like, no, I have the right name. I love how he answers him. Verse 15, it says, but the Lord said to Ananias, go, with an exclamation point. Trust. That's what Ananias has to learn here. Trust. Go. This man is my chosen instrument to proclaim my name to there they are, Gentiles. Those kids on the outer reaches who don't even know about the cul-de-sac. You're going to go to the Gentiles and their kings. And to the people of Israel, I will show him how much he must suffer for my name. Then Ananias went to the house and entered it. Placing his hands on Saul, he said, this is great, Brother Saul. What were they 5 minutes ago? Mortal enemies. And now they're brothers. That's the gospel. That's what it says in the early in Acts, that they had all things in common. There's neither Gentile nor Jew, male, female, slave, free, poor, rich, black, white. It breaks down every dividing wall. It's this amazing thing that goes on here where all of a sudden this guy's scared. I don't even want to go in the same place as him. Do you know where he's from? And now I'm laying my hands on touching him and calling him brother and wanting his healing. It's powerful, the gospel. Brother Saul, the Lord Jesus, who appeared to you on the road as you were coming here, has sent me so that you may see again and be filled with the Holy Spirit. Immediately, something like scales fell from Saul's eyes, and he could see again. He got up and was baptized. And after taking some food, he regained his strength. And he's going to need the strength. Because what follows, and we're going to see it as we progress this summer, a bunch of death threats happen. He goes from the team who wants to murder people to the team who says turn the other cheek. That's a bad transfer portal for him. Like, no, you want to stay with the one with the clubs, not the one getting beaten by the clubs, but he switches over to the team getting beaten by the clubs, and they get scattered, and they're going all over the place. And what's going to happen in the next few chapters will be that guy, Paul, getting ready for the movement. As the movement gets ready to send out a mission to the ends of the earth. See, what they have to do is they have to gather together, and they have to decide, what sort of club is this going to be? Like, how does someone get into this new thing we're building? Yes, we want to say we're open to all. Yes, hope for all. We all like to throw those terms out, but what's the fine print? It's open to all as long as you don't eat bacon. It's open to all as long as you kind of look like us. What's our fine print going to be? And that's what they're kind of figuring out. And in chapters 8 through 12, they figure out how this invite goes out, who it can go to, and who's going to take it. And that's why the camera ends up following Paul. Because he's the guy. He and his friends are going to take this thing out on this great adventure. It's Paul and Barnabas and Luke, the writer of this book, who's a Gentile. And their friends, they're going to face authorities and shipwrecks and arrests and snake bites and squabbles, all to echo God's let there be light to all the dark places and dark hearts of the world. Just take a breath. What's the point? Here's the point. My kids had the best week of their lives because they found the cul-de-sac. Here's the thing about the cul-de-sac. It had been there all along, and it was an open invite. And so it is for us. That the creative, historic, redemptive story of all the world has been churning since God put his watery world in place, and it has come now to us to steward the church. And at the church, it's the cul-de-sac where we get to play, where we get to love, where we get to laugh, where we get to have life and have it abundant. And then we're allowed to invite the world around us to play, to love, to laugh, to have life and have it abundant. The sacred knowledge is this, that the kingdom has come and the king is ready. And he sends the church out to be his envoy, to send the invites out, to establish the forever blessing and to be an outpost of heaven, an advanced settlement on this earth. That reflects, that mirrors, not perfectly, but that's trying to reflect and mirror what the kingdom of heaven will look like, what eternity, what the new heavens, new earth are going to be like. And that's what we get to focus on this summer and the remainder of Acts. How they were doing it, how they went about it, how they struggled, how they failed, how they succeeded, how God that pulled them through, how God got them out of scrapes, how God led them sometimes into scrapes for his glory. And then, seeing how they do it, we realize, oh, that's still happening. That's us. We're the kids at the cul-de-sac. How are we sharing how we play our games? How are we inviting others into this game? How are we looking forward to having more and more people join us in this game? How are we making it look on earth like it does in heaven? That's Acts, and I love it's called Acts of the Apostles. What are our Acts looking like if we wrote our book? Time will tell. Let me pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your book. We thank you for this story, the story of the book of Acts, the story of redemption as it plays out. There are some wild turns. I think the wildest turn maybe is that you go to a frail, older human being and say, hey, let's do this together. I want to use you to bring about change. I want to use you to bring about fulfillment, flourishing, shalom. It's like I would have sent an earthquake or something. some skywriting. I would have done something big. I would have had some volcanoes erupt. Like, I could think of other ways to flex. But you're gentle and kind and loving, and you're communal. He said, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to get a bunch of people together, and then we're going to have those people love each other like they've never been loved and care for each other. We're going to have those people grieve with those who grieve and rejoice with those who rejoice. And then as those people are really feeling it and really connecting and really unified across differences, we're going to tell those people, hey, now go and let that light shine in other places too, and bring more and more people into this arena of flourishing so it can be the best week of their lives as well. Not because the circumstances are good. We're still going to get mulch in our eye. We're going to come home bruised and broken sometimes. But we have family. We have friendships. We have kinship. And ultimately, that kinship is with the God of the ages who has called us, formed us, and united us to do a thing together. So I pray we'd be about that we'd be excited about it, that this summer we would pursue that. Beginning next week, as we see people baptized, people who, like I had people raise their hand earlier, it's people who are raising their hand saying, yeah, I'm in. I've been in. I might not have told you I've been in, but I want to showcase that I'm in. I want to get matching tattoos. Like, I want to express my love for this people, for this body, and my love for God. So I pray we would lean into that. I pray we would lean into saying hello, to checking up on people, to caring well, to loving well. That it would be the summer of our lives because we see the cul-de-sac come to life. The lawns mulched, the games played, folks sent out to bring in more kids. God, fill us with a fervor, fill us with your spirit, fill us with love. Praise in Jesus' name, amen.